we are going to look at slope on graphs, and we're going to really dissect this a little bit more. So far you know how to identify a puff positive slope, a nice negative slope. You may even be grasping the concept of looking at vertical change versus horizontal change and looking at how that works. But today we're really going to dive into looking at slope on graphs. So we have this graph here. We actually have 4 graphs that we're going to look at. This first graph here we are going to look at, and we're going to look at it in terms of where this line crosses nicely on the actual grid lines of this graph. So as we look at this graph, I can see that it's crossing nicely right here and right here and right here. And there's points all up and down this graph where it's crossing nicely. I'm going to identify those points, and I'm going to do that every single time I do one of these look at a graph and look at it in terms of slope. I'm always going to find where it crosses nicely on X and Y grid lines. So I'm going to write step 1, find where the line crosses the grid lines nicely. Those are places we are going to focus on. Step 2, I'm going to look at my graph and say, first of all, is this a puff positive, nice negative, that sort of thing. So I'm going to hone in on my inner slope dude. Slope dude says, for this particular graph, we can see from left to right, it's moving puff positive. So slope dude says puff positive. That means that my final answer for my slope will need to be a positive number. That'll be really nice. Okay. Last but not least, step 3, look at the rise over the run. So I want you to look at the vertical change over the horizontal change. Sorry, it's hard to read. Those little deltas, those little triangles, that means delta in Greek, and that means change. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at the vertical change versus a horizontal change. So now looking at this graph, let's look at the vertical change. So I'm going to look at one point and look at how it changes from one point to the next point. So vertically, we can see that I'm increasing 1, 2, 3 units. Horizontally, and I'm always going to look from vertical to horizontal. I'm always going to look vertical first and then horizontal, I should say. Horizontally, I can see from left to right, I'm increasing by 2 units. And I can see that all over this thing. So I can see I'm increasing by 3 plus 3, and I'm increasing by 2 all over this thing. Cool? And I can even go back here and say I'm increasing by 3 from this point to that first point that we were looking at, and increasing by 2 right there. So I'm increasing by 3 vertically. Horizontally, I'm increasing by 2. Vertically, 3. Horizontal, 2. Vertical, 3. Horizontal, 2. Now I can actually put that into this rise over run equation. Slope, or M, looks at the vertical change, the rise, versus the horizontal change, the run. The vertical change in this is 3. The horizontal change in this is 2. So my vertical versus horizontal change, my slope is 3 over 2. Cool, that's awesome. Now let's do the same thing on another graph. Okay, step 1, find where the line crosses on the grid lines nicely. So it crosses here nicely, and here nicely, and here, and here. And you can see I'm just sort of going up and marking little dots in those places. Step 3, slope dude would say for this line from left to right, he sees it increasing, so he'd say puff positive. So my final answer, just like my final answer over here, should be a positive number. Okay, now step 3, I need to look at the rise over the run. So let's look at how much I am increasing from one point to the next vertically. So it looks like I need to increase 2 units vertically, and horizontally I'm going over 4. 2 over 4. I can increase vertically 2 units, and I'm increasing horizontally 4 units. So my rise over run, I could say, is 2 over 4, which, I mean, 2 over 4, technically, that's a fraction that I can simplify, right? I could divide by 2 on the top and the bottom. So I could really write this as a rise of 1 over a run of 2. And actually, if I look back at this graph, I can see that it crosses nicely every 1 rise, 2 runs, 1 rise, 2 1, 1 rise, 2 1, and that sort of thing. So it increases nicely and like goes nicely all along there. Maybe you saw that when I was doing it. I totally missed it. Let's look at a couple of nice negative graphs. So here's a couple of nice negative graphs. We have this one. If I were to look at this, I need to find some nice points where this graph crosses the X and Y grid lines nicely. Then from there, I'm going to say, Slope Dude would say this is a nice negative. This is a sweet slope to ski on. So that means it's going to have a negative slope. So notice what it looks like when I have a negative slope. That means instead of rising up, I'm going to be rising down. And I'm always going to look from a point on the left-hand side to a point on the right-hand side. So I'm going to rise down, which is a little awkward, right? We don't typically think about rising in the negative direction, but we're going to. Your negatives will only come from the vertical aspect if you're looking from left to right. If you're looking at these points from left to right and comparing points from left to right, you will only see the negative aspect ever come from the vertical, which can be really, really helpful for organization and making sure you're getting correct answers. So I'm going to go down 2 units and to the right 3 units. And I can do this over and over again. Down 2 units to the right 3 units, and so on. So my rise over my run, if I'm going to look at this, rise over run, I have a decrease of 2 units over an increase of horizontally 3 units. 2 over 3, I can simplify that, so I can simplify that positive negative. I can say negative 2/3. Nice negative slope for this nice negative slope dude run. So this one, same thing, puff, 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 positive or nice negative. Slope dude would say this is definitely nice negative from left to right. I'm going to find my nice grid points. As I look at this, find some nice grid points. And now I'm going to say, all right, from this point to this point, how am I rising or falling? I am rising -3. So I'm going down, and I'm going over to the right, +2. Rising or falling down 3. Going to the right 2. Down 3. Oops, down 3. Into the right 2. Again, rise over run. My change in my vertical is -3. My change in my horizontal is 2. So -3 over 2 would be my final answer for that particular line. Cool. Thanks for watching. Check out some of your must-do problems, and you'll see graph problems just like this that you can find the rise and the run on. I highly suggest checking them out. Don't forget what slope deuce says, and make sure that helps you with finding if your answer is reasonable or not. Thanks for watching. Bye.